So your business has hit a wall. You're working harder than ever, but the growth is just stalled. What if I told you the solution isn't more hustle, it's better architecture? Today, we're going to break down a 90-day blueprint to engineer that growth and finally escape what we call the founder's trap. This is about turning your business from something that just happened into a deliberate, unstoppable growth machine.
And this quote right here is the entire philosophy. It's about a fundamental shift from brute force, just grinding harder and longer, to precision engineering. It's about building a business that runs on systems, not a business that runs you into the ground.
And this is the trap. I bet this sounds familiar to some of you. You're pulling 80-hour weeks. You're the first one in and the last one out, but that revenue needle just refuses to budge. And why is that? It's because the entire business's capacity is capped by your personal bandwidth. This blueprint is designed to shatter that ceiling.
So now that we know what the founder's trap is, here's the escape plan. We're going to walk through this step by step. First, we have to establish financial integrity. Then we build the operational architecture to get you out of the day-to-day weeds. After that, we execute a focused, ruthless scaling strategy, and it all leads to creating what we call an infinite growth cycle.
Okay, let's dive into phase 1, the first 30 days. Now this phase isn't about glamorous growth. It's about survival and stability. Before you even think about scaling, you have to plug the holes. You have to make sure every dollar of revenue isn't just passing through your business, but is actually sticking around as profit. It's time to fix the leaky bucket. So the very first move is a diagnostic one. Before you spend another dime on marketing or a new hire, you have to get brutally honest and figure out the real choke point in your operation. And trust me, most founders get this totally wrong.
Think of your business as a pipeline. It can only flow as fast as its narrowest point. And that narrow point, that's your single biggest constraint. It's always one of these 5 things. You either don't have enough leads, you're not good at conversions, you lack the capacity to deliver, you don't have the right talent, or you're starved for cash. Your job is not to fix everything at once. It's to find the one broken gear that's jamming the entire machine.
Let me give you a crazy example of how easy it is to misdiagnose. There was a company spending over 30 grand a month on ads, absolutely convinced they had a lead problem. But when we looked under the hood, their sales team was only converting at 8%. 8%! The industry standard was 20%. They weren't leaking leads, they were hemorrhaging them through a broken sales process.
And this brings us to the next critical piece of phase 1, what we call profit margin hygiene. See, top-line revenue, that's a vanity metric. It's the flashy number you brag about at parties. But profit, that's sanity. That's the money you actually get to keep. Scaling a business with busted margins isn't growth, it's just accelerating your own collapse.
Just look at this real-world case. A business owner was on magazine covers, celebrated for hitting an incredible $80 million in annual revenue. I mean, from the outside, it looked like the absolute pinnacle of success. But the reality? A soul-crushing 2% net profit margin. That's right, an $80 million company was only generating $1.6 million in actual profit. They were literally scaling their way straight into bankruptcy, all because their unit economics, the fundamental math on every single sale, were broken from day one.
So let's just quickly recap phase 1. To fix those misidentified bottlenecks, you stop guessing and you run a constraint audit. You use the data to find where the math stops working. To escape that vanity trap of high revenue, low margins, you enforce strict margin hygiene. You kill or repackage any offer that's pulling in less than 25% net profit, period. And to stop getting squeezed on price, you build an undeniable offer focused on transformation, not just features. All right, so the business is now financially sound. We're moving on to phase 2 for days 30 to 60. And the objective here is absolutely mission critical. We have to engineer you, the founder, out of the daily operations.
You know the story, the founder working 80+ hours a week, where every single proposal, every client email, every hiring decision has to get their personal sign-off. The business was them. And you have to understand, if a process only exists inside your head, it's not a business asset. It's a massive liability.
So how do you fix it? You codify your playbooks. It's a simple 4-step process. First, identify the top 10 activities that actually drive revenue. Second, you document them in what we call standard operating procedures, or SOPs, to get that genius out of your head and onto paper. Third, you leverage AI to handle all the robotic, repetitive stuff. And that frees up your best people, your human talent, to focus on what they do best: high-level strategy and building relationships. So to wrap up phase 2, you solve the founder bottleneck by duplicating your key processes into crystal clear SOPs, and you fix that chaotic culture that leads to high turnover with something called scorecard hiring. That means you stop hiring based on a vague job description and a good feeling. Instead, you hire for a specific, measurable mission. Every single person who joins your team knows exactly what winning looks like from day one.
This brings us to the final 30-day sprint, phase 3, ruthless scaling. Now that we have a profitable foundation and scalable systems, it's time to pour gasoline on the fire. This is about installing a culture of high performance and relentless focus.
This right here is a huge mindset shift. So many companies have a nice culture. Everybody likes each other, camaraderie is high, but targets are consistently missed because nobody wants to have the hard, uncomfortable conversations. Let me tell you, A players don't want nice. They crave standards. They want accountability. And the key to driving that accountability is this, the three-polar alignment, or the PPF framework. It means you explicitly, deliberately connect the company's targets to each team member's personal, professional, and financial goals. When someone on your team truly understands how hitting a company metric helps them buy their first house or get that big promotion, that's when you unlock real ownership, not just compliance. Now, the second pillar of this phase is focus. Founders love to think that diversification is a strength, but early on, it's usually just a synonym for distraction. Running 6 different marketing channels and 4 different product lines just means nothing is getting the full attention it needs to actually succeed. You're paying a massive invisible distraction tax. And so the move here is to apply the 80-20 principle with surgical precision. You have to identify the 20% of your products or your channels or your activities that are generating 80% of your results. Everything else? It's noise, and it needs to be cut. So the playbook for phase 3 is simple but incredibly powerful. You kill the nice culture and replace it with a disciplined operating rhythm, like a weekly metrics review where every single number has a single owner. And you eliminate the distraction tax through what we call ruthless subtraction. You audit everything and you ask, is this in the top 20%? If the answer is no, you cut it. And you pour all that reclaimed energy and capital into your winners. And that brings us to the end, which really is just the beginning. See, this 90-day blueprint isn't a one-and-done fix. It's a continuous cycle designed to help you earn a higher-level problem. This might be the most important instruction in the entire framework. On day 91, you don't throw a party, you don't celebrate, you recalibrate. You restart the entire cycle. Why? Because by fixing your biggest bottleneck, you've automatically promoted a new problem to the top of the list. And that isn't a failure. That is the very definition of business growth. So as we wrap this up, I want you to ask yourself this. You just solved your lead generation problem. Fantastic. But now you can't fulfill all the new orders fast enough. You've just earned yourself a capacity problem. Congratulations. Now you run the cycle again, but at a whole new level. That is how you engineer predictable, sustainable growth. So what's your next constraint?